Hello and welcome to Coming Home with Mama T. I'm your host, Tiara, aka Mama T. And on this podcast, we explore the journey of creating the life of our desires through mastering manifestation, maintaining a positive mindset, and living luxuriously. I am a mindset mastery and spiritual coach, and I love helping people define and align with their life's desires. And today I'm super excited because we have a very special guest. We have Janessa here with us, and we're going to be talking about overcoming adversity and shining bright like a diamond, like that Rihanna song says. I am so excited. I'm here for it. Janessa is a mindset expert and empowerment coach specializing in alternative healing. Janessa has over 20 years of experience in behavioral modification and personal growth. After two decades of working in the criminal justice field and supervising felons, her life was traumatically upturned when her significant other was unexpectedly investigated and incarcerated for federal crime. Suddenly, she found herself in a greatest trial of her life, married to a felon, discovering the ideal life she thought she had been built on truth and had been built on illusion. Her programs were born from personal rising amidst disaster. She's navigated the darkness and damage of trauma firsthand and deeply understands the healing journey. Her approach addresses the core wounds of her clients and instills growth mindset, emotional processing, and spiritual resiliency to thrive in any circumstance. Life isn't free of adversity, but it can be. But when mastering the art of being human, you can. All right. So I'm super excited for this conversation. Janessa, please step up and introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super pumped to be here. I'm super excited to talk about this life of manifestation and how sometimes our dreams come to us in really unconventional ways that we wouldn't expect, predict, or really honestly even welcome sometimes. Um, However, I would be super content if you just sang to me for the duration of our podcast. That would be super okay with me too.
Oh my God. I love it.
I
I
just
love
had to
it.
throw that in there. So, but it's true.
That's amazing. And the thought of like dreams not going the way that you like maybe intended in the beginning, because I think about it like the fact that you said singing also. When I was a kid, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a singer growing up. And I had so many people tell me that I can't. Like, we don't have, I grew up in Virginia. There was no idea that I was ever going to live in LA. Like, it was just like, that's just a thing. You have to like become a doctor or a lawyer, do something practical, like, so you can be safe. And now it's like it's so funny like how often I get the opportunity to sing. I've had like an acting career. I've done all of these things that kind of didn't that were a dream, but I had to overcome the idea that it could not be a thing and allow it to actually show up for me. So it's really amazing how life works out when we allow space for our dreams to come true.
Yeah. And we can get so caught up in making ourselves wrong. This is something I talk with so many clients about. It's like everything that we're doing is wrong. We're in the wrong place. Things aren't working out. And especially when our lives get flipped upside down for people who have that level of adversity. I mean, we all face adversity somewhere along life's path because it's what allows us to expand and grow. It's not that we're doing life wrong if we hit adversity. Um, I have met some people who have taught that. However, so I just want to set the record clear that I don't believe that's how the world works. We're going to hit adversity, and if you just can drop the resistance and sink into, man, what does this have to show me, to teach me? What do I have to learn in this situation? I didn't do anything wrong to get here, and not get caught up in that thinking of like, oh, I don't deserve this. Um, I don't want to go through this. I didn't ask for this. Then we really open ourselves to receive the gifts that adversity brings us. And it doesn't have to be feeling like dirt. I love the analogy of the diamond, which you talked about just a little bit, because if our listeners don't know how diamonds are formed, I didn't know this for many years, but it is through heat and it's through pressure. So diamonds withstand, it's, I think, 50 times the amount of pressure of the Earth's surface and over 2,500 degrees. And adversity feels like that for us as humans. It feels really heated, it feels extremely pressurized. And we can go through those experiences and feel like dirt on the other side, which isn't uncommon. The shame, the sadness, the sorrow, the anger. There's a lot that happens emotionally with us. But we can also go through it becoming a diamond or being a diamond and still shining brightly. And I believe that is really what life is all about, even during adversity.
Oh, I love that. That's so powerful because I truly like I 100% agree. Like it's not about making sure life is all sunshine, rainbows and unicorns, which is the phrase I use all the time. That's like it's not feasible. It's not sustainable to be in a space of like toxic positivity and be in a space where it's like, oh, like if my life doesn't look like the Kardashians or whatever, keeping up with the Joneses, and like all of a sudden I'm a failure. No, it like we have things that we go through. There is an ebb and flow to life, but how we carry ourselves through those lower moments, those ebbs, that's what really makes us shine, right? And that's how we learn, that's how we grow. We next level typically in those places that are the toughest, right? That's where we become even more a stronger, a more clear diamond. I don't know a whole lot about diamonds, but I do know that there's an aspect of clarity. And the more clear you are, the better, the more value it has.
Very true. Yeah, there is the element of clarity. I hadn't even thought about that. I usually think about it from the shining and the strength, but yeah, also clarity, which is a really profound part of getting through adversity because we can get so wrapped up from spiritual side to our thinking to our emotions that we lose our clearness in being able to really seek resolution. There's thinkers and there's feelers in the world. So I'm going to speak to both just really quickly. So the feelers, I'll start there because I'm a feeler. You get so wrapped up in the emotion that you're in and you want that instant gratification for the discomfort to stop,
Mhm.
right? So maybe that's drugs for some people, or smoking for other people, or drinking, or social media, or shopping, or like there, whatever that will just numb that. But when you can have tools that is going to allow you to just process the emotion, what you're feeling is not forever. When it is not temporary is when it's ignored. So when you're ignoring your emotions, they don't actually move on along. Energy and motion, they get stuck. And that's when the discomfort heightens. And it's actually when you can sit with your emotion, even if it's negative, even if it's uncomfortable, and allow it to tell you what it's there to do. Maybe that sounds weird to you guys, but literally every emotion, even if it's a negative emotion, has something positive for you. So, for instance, like anger is here to tell you that there's an injustice happening. And if you can identify the injustice and then make a path forward so that you're honoring yourself, that anger goes away really, really quickly. And there's even research from, I believe it was Harvard, but from one of those big league schools that simply identifying the emotion can allow it to dissolve. And so the more that we run and try to escape our emotions, the longer they stay with us. And if we can just have the courage in the moment to be curious and to face it of what is this that I'm feeling and name it, that can even be enough to allow it to process and move through. I did send Mama T a tapping tutorial link that I strongly encourage everyone here, whether you're a thinker or a feeler, to use when you are facing adversity, because it allows the emotions to process out of the nervous system. And when you're not swept up in what I call the emotional tornado, then you have that clearer thinking, because our emotions, when we're in that place where we're emotionally spun out, we can't go to resolution and think clearly. But my thinkers are going to get really, really, really wrapped up in like some of the thoughts that I already shared, right? Like, why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this. I'm never going to get through this. This is going to take forever. Like the situation that I went through with my husband, it was nearly 3 years of our life. And when that started, I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 years is like my entire life. But it really wasn't. Like 3 years is a blip in the whole grand scheme of life. But our thoughts can take us to a place where we are creating those negative emotions because there's always a thought before an emotion. Emotion creates a feeling sensation in the body. And so when we can really think on purpose and think thoughts that align with where we want to go and getting through the other side. Like I said, making yourself right instead of wrong. Like you're exactly where you're meant to be. It's going to be a gift. You're going to learn so much. You're absolutely so strong and well equipped to get through something of this, magnitude or a situation such as this. Why not me? Like we can often ask why me and create a lot of despair, but why not me? Or our brain, I want to teach on this really quickly too. Our brain goes to the gap. I call it the gap, the lack, the gap, how we're never where we want to be automatically. And we really have to look for evidence to show it that that's not true. And we don't have to believe everything our brain thinks because our brain actually lies to us a lot, which really seems like a raw deal as a human. But we're also able to train our brain and to like program our beliefs. Our brain is very malleable in that regard. And so once we know how to work with it, use the tapping tutorial, friends. You will change your thinking. You'll change the way that your brain processes. But the one thing the brain does that is such a gift to us is if we ask a question, our brain goes out seeking an answer. And so if you're really intentional about the question that you're holding, such as what amazing lessons and how can this be a fun adventure? Your brain is going to seek that out and make that your reality. If you're holding questions of how am I ever going to get through this situation that's going to take forever, then your brain is also going to seek that out. And so simply holding a question in your mind or asking yourself a question before you go to sleep and letting your subconscious process through that in your sleep, or when you wake up, asking yourself that positive question, what amazing lessons am I going to learn today? You're going to create a better version of that situation, even though the circumstances aren't going to change, the way you see it will begin to change and be a more positive experience. You're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way.
Oh, I love it. That is so good, so potent. And what I love to talk about all the time is, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that the situation is going to completely change, but our perception of that situation, and we get to be like, that shining light through that adverse situation or even a positive situation. Doesn't really matter. Like you can apply it to anything that you're going through every single day and be open to learning and growing and thriving. And I love that. I also want to say, like, I haven't mentioned tapping in a while here, but I am a proponent of it. So, like, I would highly recommend definitely check out the tutorial if you've never done tapping. It is really good to just like help move the emotions, right? We heard Janessa say that emotions are energy in motion, and a great way to move those motions is that tapping practice. So I talked, I think, in a previous episode about movement and the importance of movement and how animals, like if you like almost hit a deer and you could see the deer run off the street and it's like shaking its entire body, it's moving. It's like that's their version of tapping, of moving that emotion out so that it can go back to like frolicking in the grass and eating and doing what deers do and forget about your car and whatever you're doing. You're going to think about the deer longer than it's going to think about you. I'll let you know that.
Facts. Yes. Yeah. And there's lots of ways to process the emotions. I love tapping because of the various different points and the various different emotions that it all encompasses and processes in a nice, neat little bundle. But movement, like you said, that's a huge part of it. So working out can be a great way to process emotions if you're doing so intentionally. Dancing turns on the entire brain. It's an incredible way to process your emotions, even into trauma. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be limited to tapping. The real thing is finding something that works for you. There's so many different things out there. I like to say there's more than one way up the mountain. And I think that we're called toward different things at different times. There was a point in my life many years ago, I was introduced to tapping and I was told how great it was. And I tried it once or twice and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And then I entered my tapping era and I'm like, where has this been all my life? Like, why wasn't I using this all these years? And so, there's a time and space for everything. And the same is true for me with journaling. I was a non-journaler for a lot of my life, and I entered my personal development and healing journal or journey, and I was still not a journaler. And then I was like, well, I think I can bullet journal. That seems efficient. Journaling takes too long. And then I entered into, you know what? Lots of things happen with rewiring in the brain. When you put pen to paper, you don't just think about it, or you just don't talk it out, but talking it out can be helpful too. But when you really put that pen to paper, yeah, I think I'll go ahead and journal now. And so just honor yourself with where you are and with what you're drawn to. There's a reason for that, and find what works for you because we're all different. And while we're all human beings and we have, biochemical things that are all the same within our bodies, just honoring where you are in your journey, who you are, what your interests are, allows you to establish those habits and that lifestyle in a gentle way versus forcing yourself to do something because you know it's good for you. And I don't encourage people to take the latter approach because it's not long term. Like, let's do what feels good and what brings us joy in the process of, walking through the adversity that we face in our life in those chapters.
I love it. And I love how you mentioned that, like, in different phases of our life, we can utilize different tools and resources. So maybe like right now, tapping isn't the resource that you want to use. Maybe it's dance, but maybe later on tapping comes back or whatever, and allowing it to kind of shift and change as you shift and change and grow, which is amazing. And I have like thinking about journaling, because journaling is one of those things I go back and forth with. Like some days I feel really good about writing and some days I don't. And I know like for me, like my voice really like resonates with me. I talk to myself a lot. And that's where this podcast actually came from, is like, I was talking to myself and I was talking through something and I was like, you know what? I should be recording this. Someone should hear, someone else needs to hear what I'm talking about. And that's really kind of how the podcast kind of started. So figure it out. Maybe it's going to make you money one day. Who knows? uh,
Absolutely.
find what feels good. And the finding is also the other thing where, listening to other people's ideas and what works for them is great and giving it a try. But then, if it doesn't, you're like, okay, I'm not connected to this. It's okay to be like, you know what? It's not my story. It's not my thing. It might be for you, but my story seems to be different and I can try something else.
Yeah, and I love the exploring that you're really bringing into this conversation. We lose that for some reason as we become adults, and we think that we should just know everything that we need in every moment, know how to do everything in every moment. And we fall away from having the grace and that childlike um tenacity, for lack of a better word. I mean, I'm not sure when we're learning to walk and we can't talk yet if it's truly tenacity, but I point people back to the wisdom of being a child so often because, like, we don't need confidence to learn how to walk. We fall down 100 times and we don't say, oh man, I need confidence before I start walking. And we get confidence from doing something successfully. No, this is just a story. Like, we fall down and get back up. We fall down and bounce right back up when we're kids, and we just keep going until we figure out, how do we keep our balance? Okay, I'm gonna hold on to a toy and I'm gonna put one foot in front of the other. And before you know it, you're running. And so as adults, give yourself that grace to explore and to try things and to fall down but get back up and not stay down or make it mean something about you. That's something else our brain is so committed to doing, is if we falter, we make a whole big story. It means so much about us versus just letting it be feedback. It's not even failure, it's just feedback. Now you know the next time a better way of going about whatever it is that you are doing. And so explore and have so much grace with yourself and let it be fun rather than criticizing yourself, making yourself wrong, should already know, should already have this figured out, Janessa. Mm-mm. Put that belief in a bubble and let it go.
Uh, we need to play more. That's that's all I always think. Like we need more fun. We need to play more. I love the baby walking analogy. I'm definitely putting that in my back pocket because it's brilliant. Like babies don't think about, oh, like, oh my gosh, like my sister started walking like 3 months before I'm like that's not their thought. They're just like, I want to get to the toy, or like, I don't know, someone has like a cheese stick in front of me, so I'm trying to like figure out the most efficient way to get there. And they just do it and they figure it out and they learn how to feel in their own body. And where I think we lose it when other people, we start understanding other people's thoughts and other people's indoctrination, if you will, of what's right, what's wrong, how we should supposed to be doing something, and we should all over ourselves as we get adults, and we don't have to. It's a choice to do so.
Yeah. And faith in ourselves, belief in ourselves. Like the spiritual aspect of ourselves is really important in this conversation too. Because if you have that convicted belief in yourself, it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. You know you're getting there. You know it's part of the process. You know it's just another step along the way. It's another puzzle piece you're collecting along your journey. If you are wavering in your belief in yourself, then things get real wobbly really quickly. And so I think this spiritual resiliency is super important in believing in yourself, but also believing in a bigger picture that we can't see yet. You know, in my personal situation with my significant other, that was a big part that kept me moving forward throughout that journey was I don't know what we're being called to here, but it's something. And I constantly, through meditation and prayer, I kept having that affirmation come back to me that, you know, this is a divine path for whatever reason, just stay the course because we weren't actually married at the time that situation started. So I had the option to leave. And every single time I entered my spiritual connection and prayer and meditation, it absolutely was a really solid red light that I am to stay. And there was so much growth and learning for me in that because commitment was one of my biggest challenges in relationships, you know, for 4 decades of my life. And so it did bring a lot of blessings with it. But without that spiritual connection, my intuition, that time and meditation, and believing in this bigger picture, if I had been left to my own logic, I would have chosen a different path than what I did. And so knowing that I'm being supported, right, by something bigger, grander than what is my own intelligence, like if you don't believe that, then we really need to chat because once you rewrite that story, it will shift your entire human life experience. There is truly, you know, this intelligence out there so much grander than our own that is absolutely supporting every step we take in this life.
Hmm. That is so beautiful. Um, I love it. And then in that coming home to self, and I love how it all just kind of like ties in because you have your coming home to you course. This is coming home with Mama T. Like it is like the synchronicity of it all because it is so important for us to really like go on our own journey, come home to ourselves, connect to our own heart space. That's why I have my membership community called home because it's really about coming home, right? Being in our own heart, being self-led, being allowing ourselves to really connect, get back to the roots of all like not just like energetically, but mentally and physically. And it's so important to fulfillment, at least in my opinion, when we can lead from within and trust ourselves and love ourselves fully, authentically as we are, even in the spaces of adversity. And I would love to hear more about your coming home to you course. So tell me a little bit more, Janessa.
Yeah, it's a 31-day program, and there is a recording 6 days of the week. There are
Mm.
journal prompts, there are energy mindset shifts and sessions within those recordings. There is emotional processing in there. There's self-exploration, self-reflection, and it really allows you to shed many of the layers that you picked up along the way of life that really weigh you down rather than allow you to soar. And, you know, I firmly believe that all of our truth is encoded in our DNA. And so when we come home to ourselves, to our heart, just as you were talking about, to our own truth, we know our way. We have all of the guidance that we need to walk this path of life in the most authentic way for ourselves. Even when other people may say, like, you are walking in a really heavy dose of Delulu. Yes, I am. And I love it because it's right for me. Like, what might be not right for you is right for me. So this might look delusional to you. And I love this path. But anyway, there's journal prompts, meditations, energy work. I think I said most of that already for 6 days. And then the seventh day allows an integration. So you can go back to some of those exercises that you felt really called to. You can go deeper into them. And by the end of the month, you will be walking in a much more radiant, authentic version of yourself.
Oh, I love it. That's beautiful. Amazing. And then our audience can also work with you one-on-one, correct?
They sure can. I have a 30-minute discovery call that they can snag, and we can chat about where they are, where they want to be, and how we would build that bridge to get there. Absolutely.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And we have a beautiful gift. So those of you who use the coupon code MamaT when signing up for the course or talking about the sessions will get 25% off. So I am so thankful, Janessa, that you are offering that to our listeners today. So definitely take advantage of that if you feel so called.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to connect with anyone who feels drawn or is just facing adversity and feel like you can't do it on your own. And that's not every adverse situation we face in life, but when you know that you're there, you know you're there. And there is something for leveraging other people's belief in you when your belief in you wavers. And that was part of my own journey. And nothing lights me up and inspires me as much as walking alongside individuals who are truly invincible and they need just a smidge of support along that really hard path to come out the other side. And just life is better than what you could even imagine. Literally, your brain can't imagine it and you don't know how you're getting there. But once you're there, you're so glad that you walked that path that you just went down.
Mm. I love it. I feel so like warm and tingly in your energy, Janessa. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your intelligence with us. Is there anything else you would like to share before we hop off?
Ooh, this question, I always feel like, oh, there's some divine message that needs to be shared. So let me tune in and just see for your audience what that nugget should be. What I'm really hearing is just dropping judgment.
Mm.
And this is goes along the lines of like making ourselves wrong, right? But we judge ourselves so often. I'm too pushy. I'm too timid. I'm too much. I'm too loud. I'm too quiet. I'm too shy. Oh, your muchness is your muchness. Your timidness is your timidness. Can we just drop the judgment and accept that we were divinely created to be the person that we are? We don't need to be fixed. That's such masculine energy, but just love who you are. And those things are your gifts.
Mm.
Those things are what allow you to interconnect in with society, right? Like your energy and gifts are much different than mine, but we connect and actually complement one another. And so trusting in that bigger picture, right? There is no too muchness in anyone. Just drop the judgment and accept yourself and capitalize on every characteristic you have. And the more you love every part of yourself, rather than judge it, mm, everything changes. I'm serious. Like people will respond to you differently. Things come naturally and more easily. You make more money, you get a promotion at work. Like all sorts of things shift when we can just drop the judgment and just be who we are and love every aspect of us.
Beautiful. I love it. Ah, that was so perfect. Such a beautiful message. Thank you so, so much for joining us today, Janessa. I will be putting in the show notes how you guys can connect with her amazing, wonderful energy. And of course, remember to subscribe, share, and new episodes come out every Monday and Thursday. And I will catch you on the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.